Hello YouTube, it's me again, Brad with MacGyver's Woodshop and Adventures. Today we're going to build a gripper style push stick that I saw on the Crazy Russian Woodshop. I'll put a link in the description down below. Watched him make one. He didn't have any plans, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to build one myself. The difference is I made mine mostly out of Plex. I've got a cutting board, old Teflon cutting board, made some knobs, handle came off of a cement float. So kind of scrounged some materials around the shop and put this thing together. So let's see what we can do. Come on along. We're going to start out by cutting a 4-inch strip off this 1/2-inch thick plexiglass that I picked up in the scrap bin at a manufacturer here in town. It's 4 inches wide by 9 3/8 inches long. These measurements are kind of arbitrary. The piece was already cut to 9 3/8 wide, so I'm just going to cut a 4-inch strip off the end of it, and that's going to form the top plate for the gripper. This heavy plexiglass machines like wood, a lot like a hardwood. It will slow the saw down, so just listen to your saw for bogging and take your time. It'll work. Once I get the cut completed, I'm going to take it out of the saw. It is messy, it throws stuff everywhere, and there you go. Top plate of a gripper push stick. Next, we're going to be working on the legs. So I'm going to cut some plywood and some more of the 1/2-inch plex and some 1/8-inch plex that I have on hand to make the legs that the gripper stands on. At this point, it'd be really nice to have a gripper to push stuff around in the table saw. Here's a quick look to kind of get an idea of how it's going to go together. I've got some T-track and some carriage bolts, the 2 floating pieces in the center, plexiglass on the outside, and a wood leg that goes up against the fence. So I failed to get marking the leg out on camera, so I marked the center line. Mark the 2 end holes, one here, one there. Then you measure between the 2 holes. And you're going to divide that by 1, 2, 3. That will give you 4 spaces. So what I'm going to do now is drill the 4 holes. I set the depth stop on the drill press so they're all the same depth, and I used an appropriate drill bit for the size of screws so I could tap them later on. I think it's kind of neat how you can see the holes in the plexiglass. So now we're going to tap the holes. The plexiglass taps real easy. The only thing you have to watch is remember to turn your tap in 2 or 3 times and then back it out a little bit to clear the chips. It will bind up and it gets pretty soft if you're not careful. So just remember to back out and clear the chips. Okay, they're all tapped. We'll test fit a screw. Hopefully it screws in well, and it does. So we're on to starting getting ready to assemble some stuff. So next I'm going to transfer the holes from the leg that are tapped to the gripper top plate. I was trying to do this so you could see it on camera and it failed miserably. So I'm going to turn it around to where I can see what I'm doing and mark the holes so they line up, or at least get close to lining up. So these holes need to be pretty accurate, pretty tight tolerances, and it was really fiddly, and it took me a long time to get the 4 holes marked in the top plate. The better way to have done it would have been to clamp the 2 pieces together, pilot drill with a small bit through the top plate into the leg, and then drill the leg out to size and tap, and then drill the top plate out to size. Hindsight's 20/20. So now we're drilling the holes where I marked them. Hopefully they line up. Lots of drilling, lots of hoping. Okay, there you go. There's 4 holes. Hopefully they line up. We'll see how it goes. Next, I countersink the holes so they'll accept flush screws so it can slide next to a fence and all the screws are below the surface. And then we'll continue on and move on to the next step. And now we're going to assemble the one leg and the top together. I match marked the edges so I would know which wind went where, and hopefully the screw holes lined up. All kidding aside, this has not been tried before. The screws are either going to go in here or I'm going to have to start over, and I got lucky and it all lined up and worked. But while I was filming this, I had no idea if it was going to work or not. So let's just keep moving forward. Here I'm doing a final torque of all the screws. Everything lined up well. The edge feels really good. I can't believe it all worked. Here's just a look at it as it's put together. The edge is lined up really well. It's nice and square. Overall, it's starting to come together, and I think this is going to work. Here's a view of the float that I got, and I took the handle off of it to use as a handle for the gripper. So just kind of putting the pieces in place, seeing what it's going to look like, and I think it's taking shape pretty nicely. So I drilled and tapped the other edge and match drilled it to a piece of 1/8 inch plexiglass. That'll be for the thin strip side, and that's the side that rides up against the fence. Also for that side, I match drilled a piece of 1/2 inch plywood so I can use it for longer rips on heavier material if I don't need the thin strip ripping leg. And here's just a mid-progress shot, the thin leg and the 1/2 inch plywood leg, and just kind of an overview of what it looks like. Here I'm going to mark the T-track. On this edge here, it cannot extend past the top plate or you run the chance of it interfering with the table saw fence when you change out the legs on that side. I'm going to cut the T-track on the miter saw. It does a good job cutting aluminum. Just take your time, don't let it grab, and it makes a really nice cut in the end. So, got the holes in the T-track. Going to transfer those holes to the top cap, drill them and tap them, just like we've been doing. I think it's going to work well. Okay, more screws, and we'll have the T-track installed. Well, the center leg that I glued up of 2 1/2 inch pieces of plywood, not quite as even as I'd like, so I'm going to run it through the joiner, smooth up both faces, and we'll keep moving forward. So in the middle leg, I've got to make a step on each end because the T-track is 3/4 of an inch wide and the top plate is only 1/2 inch. So I've got a step that I've got to cut in both ends of the middle leg. Next, I've got some aluminum strap that I'm going to use to connect the middle leg to the T-track. And I'm going to take a little time here and show everybody some tricks that I learned as a sheet metal mechanic on airplanes. That has to do with filing metal. I know we're all woodworkers, but some of this stuff kind of comes in handy. So number one, you always file in one direction, never drag your file backwards. I'm using a pretty rough file here. It's a double cut bastard file. Once you get everything evened out, I've got 2 pieces in here and I'm bringing them to the same thickness. Then we can go back to worrying about finishing the edge. So next I'll move on to a smooth file. It's a single cut smooth file, and that's going to start taking the coarse marks out of the edge, and we'll go one step further after this. So what we're going to do next is what they call draw filing. You take the file with the tang in your left hand, you hold the file 90 degrees to your work, and you draw it straight towards you. And what this does is it makes a mirror smooth edge. You can go back to your coarse file, then to the smooth file, and you will literally get a mirror polished edge on your material. So now that we got our metal plates, it's time to attach the middle leg to the gripper plate. Drill out the holes, install the screws. I used 4 screws for each one. I didn't have the metal plate go all the way to the bottom of the wood just in case the table saw nicks it. And yeah, now the middle leg's attached. So there it is, a basic gripper style push block made out of scrap materials laying in the shop. Okay folks, this video is getting kind of long, so we're going to have a part 2 for where we work on the vertical and the horizontal piece that slides under for the smaller pieces of work or extra thick pieces of work. Stay tuned for part 2.